The Ghost Before the Title. Please Come, Holy Spirit. Ever wonder why? Chapter 3. Part 1. Chapter 3. What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and suffers the loss of his own soul? Matthew 16:26. Okay, so far we have discussed how both God and the devil are truly real, and how every immortal on earth has an immortal soul that both of them want. We have also discussed how both God and the devil are constantly warring for the final destination of our immortal souls, and how we mortals are stuck in the middle of this daily raging battle. We have also discussed how the devil not only wants, but needs our sympathy, and how the rulers of the darkness of this world and spiritual wickedness in high places are supernatural forces that play a critical role in the lives of us mortals. So let us now take a closer look at the people who sell their souls to the devil and discover if they have made a good deal for themselves with the devil, and who in fact guarantees the deal that they have made with the devil. You can believe or not believe whatever it is that you want to believe or not believe. That's your business. Do you know what really kills me about people who sell their souls to the devil? What really kills me about these people is they think or they believe they have made a deal with the devil, and they believe it is the devil who keeps the deal that they have made with them. They also believe they in fact have a pact with the devil. In a way they do. They did make a deal to sell their souls to the devil through one of the devil's demon-possessed human slaves. But what is worse is, they believe that it is the devil who guarantees them that he will keep his word for the deal that they have made with him. How stupid can they be? They are sorely mistaken. What is so important to understand is that it is God and not Lucifer who guarantees that Lucifer keeps his end of his deal with the foolish mortals who are stupid enough to have sold their souls to the devil here on earth. I don't think most people realize that it is God and only God who guarantees those poor unfortunate mortals who made a pact with Lucifer that Lucifer's end of the pact is enforced by God and God alone, and not by Lucifer. Are you kidding me? Do you really think or believe Lucifer/Satan would keep his end of any kind of deal that he has made with any kind of mortal if he didn't have to? Satan, who lives to lie, steal, cheat, kill, and commit every kind of evil there is under the sun, and causes mortals to do the same and worse, while endlessly looking for mortal souls to devour? Stop and think about that just for a second. Do you really think someone like that, someone like Satan/Lucifer, would keep any kind of deal he has made with any kind of mortal, foolish enough to have sold their soul if he didn't have to? If you do, you better give your head a shake. If Lucifer the devil could, he would rip you and every other mortal off just as fast as he could. Lucifer would love to rip you off any chance he gets. Satan would love to burn you and your deal just as fast as he'd love to burn you and your soul. If Lucifer could get away without keeping his end of any deal he made with any mortals, he would do it in a heartbeat. It is God who guarantees Satan keeps his deal with mortals. It is Satan's fear of God that makes him keep his end of the deal. It is also God who in the end guarantees that the mortals keep their end of the deals with Satan. Do mortals know or believe this? You can bet Satan knows and believes this. Satan knows he has to wait until the end of mortality and Judgment Day to really rip you off and burn you. Because in the end, that's what it is. You get ripped off for your soul, and you will be burned for eternity. Your eternal soul is his real reward. There is nothing on earth that is worth the price of your soul. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and suffers the loss of his own soul? Matthew 16:26. Every single mortal soul is so precious and valuable in God's eyes. God will not allow Satan to break his end of any deal that he has made with any mortal, nor will he allow any mortal to break his or her end of any deal that he or she has made with the devil. A mortal's deal with the devil and the devil's deal with a mortal are both guaranteed by God. It is because a mortal soul is so valuable here on earth that God allows Satan to deliver his end of the bargain. Mortals are so precious in God's eyes that God gave mortals a free will. God also promised mortals he would not obstruct or interfere with a mortal's free will. Mortals can do whatever they choose to do with their free will, and God will not hinder their choice. Mortals will reap what they sow later. That's God's word to mortals. If a mortal freely and willingly sold their immortal soul to Satan for temporary earthly desires, then that is exactly what the mortal will get from Satan, temporary earthly desires. It was a mortal's free will and choice to make that deal. And God will not interfere, obstruct, or hinder that mortal's choice to make that deal. Just like God guarantees Satan delivers his end of the deals made with mortals here on earth, God also guarantees Satan that the mortals will deliver their end of their deal to Satan on Judgment Day. Judgment Day is the beginning of the end of the mortal's deal with Satan, and the beginning of Satan's deal with the mortal. Like I said at the beginning of chapter 1, every beginning is an ending, and every ending is a beginning, except for God, who is without beginning and who has no end. He is where the beginning and the end meet and are inseparable. It is God who guarantees both ends of the deal between the devil, Lucifer/Satan, and mortals. Make no mistake, on Judgment Day, God will deliver the condemned mortal soul that he or she sold to the devil, and that mortal soul will burn for eternity. That's God's guarantee to the devil. Satan believes in and knows God very well. Satan already knows with complete certainty and without any doubt whatsoever that God will keep his word and his guarantee to deliver the wretched mortal soul to him on Judgment Day, just like he kept his word and guarantee to deliver Satan's promises to the mortal here on earth. Okay, so who's getting the better end of the stick here, folks? The mortals or the devil? Remember, on Judgment Day, the mortal's deal for temporary desires here on earth ends, and Satan's desire for the eternal torture of those mortal souls begins. So bear in mind and make sure it is very clear to you that it is God who guarantees both parties, the mortals and the devil, keep their ends of their deals, not Lucifer. The mortal gets his or her price here on earth, which is temporary, and Lucifer gets his price on Judgment Day, which is eternal. Both prices are guaranteed, kept, and delivered by God, and by God alone. So I ask you once again, who is getting the better end of the stick here, folks? Is trading some temporary pleasures for permanent tortures, or getting permanently tortured for temporary pleasure, worth it? I don't think so. Lucifer knows if he cheated the mortal and did not deliver any part of the mortal's deal that he made with the mortal, God would not deliver that mortal soul to Lucifer on Judgment Day. This is only one of the many reasons why Satan fears God. It is out of Satan's fear for God that Satan makes sure that the mortal's end of the deal is delivered, adhered to, and kept as promised. And yet, it is God who allows Satan to keep his end of the deal. Satan knows without God's permission he would not be able to deliver anything. Satan fears God for this too. Just as God gave us free rein over our free will and promised us he would not interfere, obstruct, or hinder our free will, God gave Satan free rein over all the earth and all its treasures, and promised Satan that he would not interfere or obstruct Satan's free rein over all the earth for a certain amount of time. And Satan, of course, knows God will keep his word. It is by God's promise to Satan not to interfere with Satan's free reign over all the earth and its treasures that Satan is able to deliver his limited promises to mortals here on earth. However, Satan knows he only has a limited amount of time. Satan doesn't know exactly how long that limited amount of time is. All he knows is that the amount of time he has here on earth is a fixed amount of time. And when his time is up, it is up. Just like us, when our time is up, it is up. This is another one of the many reasons why Lucifer / Satan fears God. Satan has plenty of reasons to fear God. Satan's fear of God is why he can never deny God's existence whenever he is commanded to do so. Whenever he is absolutely required to tell the truth, the devil must tell the truth. I don't advise anyone to try playing games with the devil by trying to outsmart or outfox him into telling the truth. The devil is very cunning, and he knows when he can deceive a person rather than tell the truth. Remember, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, and against spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians 6:12. The devil has lots of visible and invisible forces working for him. If the devil perceives any spiritual wisdom or strength lacking in a person, or realizes the slightest amount of doubt or weakness in their faith, he will know that he is not absolutely required to speak the truth, and he will avoid it. In its place, he will tell such a convincing lie that many would take it as the truth. Unless the strength of our faith and our belief in God is immovable, we are susceptible to seduction and deception by the devil. The wisest thing to do when encountering and recognizing Satan in human form is to run in the opposite direction. If confrontation is inescapable without engaging in some sort of conversation, do not try to outwit the devil. No matter what the disguise the devil is in, human or otherwise, just know and remember, you can command the spirits and the devil himself to admit the truth if your belief and faith in God are strong enough. But yet do not rejoice in this, that spirits are subject unto you, but rejoice in this, that your names are written in heaven. Luke 10:20. Why shouldn't we rejoice that the spirits are subject unto us? Because there is a downside to this incredible gift we as humans have received from God our Father. Evil people know about this gift and use their power over the spirits for evil purposes rather than good. A very brilliant British filmmaker named Chris Everard made a film called Spirit World Volume 2, The Alien Kabbalah. And if I may, I would like to use a clip from that film to illustrate what I'm speaking of. I would highly recommend buying the DVD from www.chriseverard.com or www.spiritworlddvd.com, or you can try contacting www.enigmamotionpictures.com. To anyone who really wants some eye-opening views on aliens, spirits, secret societies, the occult, and so much more. The following clip expresses what I am saying in a much more vivid way.
Well, I used to publish a magazine all about broadcast technology, radio technology, film technology, lighting, that kind of thing. And a friend of mine worked for a company at film studios just outside London. And he called me up one day and he said, you never guess who's moved in next door with a huge film project? I said, no. He said, it's Stanley Kubrick. And the film that Stanley Kubrick was making, and he'd taken over basically most of the studio complex just outside of London, was Eyes Wide Shut, featuring Tom Cruise. Now, Tom Cruise is an interesting choice because Tom Cruise, it's no secret whatsoever, has had a long-term relationship with an organisation that previously been established by L. Ron Hubbard. Now, L. Ron Hubbard was a science fiction author. He'd collaborated on script ideas for the TV series Star Trek, and was a friend of Jack Parsons, who was a rocket designer, who was one of the guiding lights and one of the founding fathers of Jet Propulsion Labs. And together, L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons conducted a series of magical rituals. And in actual fact, Jack Parsons baptized himself as the Antichrist. And partly this was the subject of my film, which I made in 2006, called The Antichrist Conspiracy, which is the second part of my series of films about the global network of secret societies, which we generally call the Illuminati. So Eyes Wide Shut is really an expose of these super wealthy people in stately homes. They are, if you like, the American Illuminati, the American aristocracy. And in the film you see a form of black mass. And the black mass is traditionally a satanic version of the Catholic mass. And in the film you see characters dressed as cardinals and a character dressed rather like a pope from the medieval era. And it's a ritual of sex magic witnessed by these super wealthy individuals who disguise themselves using masks which are reminiscent of the Venetian masked balls of the medieval era. And sex magic is a very specialized form of magic. It's really bringing together an atmosphere of psychic tension within the temple and combining this with sexual tension and the energy that is given out at the point of orgasm by the people that are taking part. This sexual energy is offered up to a spirit, and of course in the case of Satanism and various versions of black magic rites, this sexual energy at the point of orgasm is given as a gift to breathe life, as it were, into a demon spirit which is invoked. And at the beginning of the ritual in the film Eyes Wide Shut, we see each of the participants kissing each other. And this is a very common thing that you find in rituals. The high priest or the high priestess would often welcome each initiate to the ritual with a kiss. Now, in black magic, such as the black magic that was practiced by the Knights Templar, and we know for sure that the Knights Templar were involved in very, very dark occultic goings-on, because when the Knights Templar were interrogated, many of them confessed And one of the confessions was that they used to give each other a sacrilegious kiss. And the high priest of the Knights Templar Order used to bare his buttocks to each of the initiates as they entered the temple. And they used to have to kiss the anus of the high priest. And the other things that used to go on at Knights Templar rituals is spitting and trampling on the cross and denying the existence of Jesus Christ. And also a form of necromancy, which is a form of black magic which involves corpses and invoking the spirits, summoning spirits, and then implanting these spirits into a dead body or the severed head of a corpse, and trying to watch muscle movements of this head and receive spiritual communication. And these heads were highly prized, and they were kept in silver caskets, and they became known as Baphomets.
If you enjoyed that little snippet from the film Spirit World 2, The Alien Kabbalah, then I would strongly suggest you obtain the complete DVD from one of the aforementioned sources. There are also lots of other great films and DVDs you might want to check out as well. Now, back to what I was speaking of, which was the incredible gift we mortals receive from God, that spirits are subject unto us. Whenever we are not sure if we are dealing with the devil in the form of some human being, some sort of dreamlike or conjured spirit, we can easily find out by testing the spirits. Dearly beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see if they be of God, because many false prophets are gone out into the world. 1 John 4:1. Just as we know if a tree is good or bad by its fruits, in the same manner we shall know by the person's fruits if they be good or bad persons. By their fruits you shall know them. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Matthew 7:16. By testing the spirits within the persons, we can discover if good or bad spirits, and if the devil is hiding within, and using that or those persons for his own purposes. The truth can be demanded from the devil by commanding it in God and Jesus' name. This is another reason why Satan fears God. As you can plainly see by now, the devil has lots of reasons to fear God. It wasn't always like this though. I will cover this and explain why later. Nevertheless, Satan knows and believes that there is one God, and in fact he is truly terrified of God. You believe that there is one God? You do well. The devils also believe and tremble. James 2:19. End of chapter 3, part 1. Coming next, chapter 3, part 2. What exchange shall a man give for his soul? Matthew 16:26. And the clueless mortals. Until then, remember, the devil is stalking you, and God is calling you. The ghost before the title. Please come, Holy Spirit. Ever wonder why? Chapter 3, part 2. What exchange shall a man give for his soul? Matthew 16:26. And the clueless mortals. Most mortals are positively clueless how very much God is concerned about the mortal soul, and any kind of deal the mortal made with the devil. Satan isn't too worried about it though. He'll give the mortal anything that is within his power to give. Whatever he or she, the mortal, wants here on earth is no big deal for Satan, because he knows it is a sucker's deal. Satan knows mortals cannot plan, craft, or design a perfect deal for themselves, because mortals are imperfect to begin with. How can anyone come up with a perfect plan who has an imperfect mind. Satan also knows all earthly things will pass away. The world passes away, and the concupiscence/lust thereof, but he that does the will of God lives forever. 1 John 2:17. Too many mortals think they know it all and believe they are taking advantage of Satan. This is just one example of mortals believing their own imaginations. For you have said, we have entered into a league/deal with death/the devil, and we have made a covenant/promise with hell. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through/judgment day, it shall not come upon us, for we have placed our hope in lies, and by falsehood we are protected. Isaiah 28:15. Lots of mortals who sell their souls to the devil think they are getting the better end of the deal with the devil, because they are granted whatever their desires are here on earth. They are completely clueless. For they have said, reasoning with themselves, but not right, the time of our life is short and tedious, and in the end of a man there is no remedy, and no man has been known to have returned from hell. Wisdom 2:1. I don't know if the majority of people who sell their souls necessarily know or believe they have a soul at the time they contract to sell their soul. I would say obviously they don't. So in their minds they believe they are getting something for nothing. They have nothing to lose and everything to gain if they can get whatever they want by trading for something they don't think or believe they have. This is just another example of mortals believing their own imaginings. I often wonder if they ever stop and think about whether or not they might have been shortchanged. I'm sure when they do get whatever they sold their soul for, they must realize they truly did have a soul to begin with. The question must cross their minds when everything they bargained their soul for comes to pass. I'd be willing to bet they are constantly haunted by questions they ask themselves. Questions like, did they make a good deal? What else could they have asked for and didn't? How much more could they have gotten for the price of their soul? And many more questions like these must always be cropping up in their minds. I think they must regret all the things they could have bargained for and never considered at the time of their deal with the devil. Things unperceived and unthought of. Things that present themselves later on during a person's life. Things they could never have dreamed of or dreamed of including in their fatal deal. Things that hadn't even been invented yet at the time of their deals with Lucifer. But alas, by the time they realized all the things they could have had and didn't think to ask for, include, and get as part of their deal with the devil, it is too late. And the devil is laughing at them for being so stupid as not to think of including these things. I wonder how much they regret not including all the things they could have had but don't have. And I also wonder if they know how much their regrets and sorrows for not thinking of including these things only makes the devil laugh at them harder. They know what they want on the day they make their deals with the devil. They don't know what they will want tomorrow. They spend their days in wealth, and in a moment they go down to hell. Job 21:13. This is another one of the devil's many deceptions. Satan knows that mortals cannot envision all the options available to them. They cannot conceive, imagine, fathom, or predict every mind-boggling opportunity that life has to offer. At the same time, Satan also knows that they can neither foresee all of life's unanticipated calamities. Who knows what sudden misfortune may befall them in the future? Who knows when unexpected disaster may strike? Even if they say, we are at peace, no evil shall befall us, and no one dares to hurt us. Do not believe them. Her princes have judged for bribes, and her priests have taught for hire, and her prophets divined for money. And they leaned upon the Lord, saying, is not the Lord in the midst of us? No evil shall come upon us. Micah 3:11. The wrath of God will arise quickly, and their deeds will be brought to naught, and their thoughts will perish. When sudden calamity shall fall on you, and destruction as a tempest shall be at hand, when tribulation and distress shall come upon you, Proverbs 1:27, I also will laugh in your destruction, and will mock you when that which you feared shall come upon you. Proverbs 1:26. Like Jesus said, for what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and suffers the loss of his own soul? Or what exchange shall a man give for his soul? Matthew 16:26. Who knows for what secret desire a person is willing to trade for their soul? Whatever it is never enough. No human being can ever begin to conceive or claim to know all things, no matter what they think. It cannot be done. It is impossible for humans to conceive or know all there is to know, when humans don't even know what all is. It doesn't matter in the least how great they think they are, how conceited they are, how huge their ego is, or how high they esteem themselves and their intellect to be. No mortal, whoever was, whoever is, or whoever will be, can ever know all things. All is not ours to know. All belongs to God. Therefore, it would stand to reason. No one can ever cover all of the bases when it comes to the price of their soul. Period. The most obvious reason for this is there is nothing in this world that is worth the price of our soul. I don't know how anyone can see the benefit of trading something eternal for something temporal. The only way I can conceive how anyone can trade an eternity of paradise for an eternity of torture is by believing they must have bought the devil's lies and fallen for the devil's deceptions, causing them to lose their faith and belief in God. As I said earlier in this V-book, the devil's sole purpose here on earth is to destroy a person's faith/belief in God. And obviously he is doing a good job of it, with so many mortals giving away and selling their souls for an eternity of torture instead of keeping their souls for an eternity of paradise. Or don't they believe that either? Because the devil has convinced them there is no such thing as hell. Then again, it could be those wannabes and devil worshippers who think they know all about Lucifer and what he has to offer. They willingly sell their souls because they believe they are making fully informed decisions before they make their deal with the devil. They are only fooling themselves. Lucifer is not about to fully inform any mortal about anything. Are you kidding me? If they were truthfully informed by Lucifer about the reality of the deal they are making, they would never make the deal. But Lucifer knows he doesn't have to tell these types of people the absolute truth. And alas, these self-deceiving wannabes and devil worshippers fall for the devil's lies and deceptions because they want to believe it to begin with, which is just another example of people believing their own imaginings. Lots of these types of people believe John Milton's quote from Paradise Lost: "It is better to rule in hell than serve in heaven." And Lucifer only encourages them to believe it even more. I've heard of, read about, and seen lots of people who say they have sold their souls for rock and roll. I have also heard of, read about, and seen others who supposedly have sold their souls to become the most famous, the greatest, and or the best in the field of their dreams. Some want to be movie stars, musicians, athletes, politicians, captains of industry, commanders of armies, revered religious leaders, rich, famous, and powerful people, and on and on and on. I've read about a pope, a French Catholic priest, and an archdeacon who allegedly sold their souls to the devil. The following is a descending list of 10 famous or infamous people who are supposed to have sold their souls to the devil, beginning with the Pope. The source of this list comes from listverse.com. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of other web pages out there that list people who have reportedly sold their souls. The full web address of the listverse list is mentioned at the end of this chapter. Number 10. Pope Sylvester II. Born 945. Died 5/12/1003. Pope Sylvester II was one of the most learned men of his time, well versed in mathematics, astronomy, and mechanics. He is credited with inventing the hydraulic organ, pendulum clock, and introducing Arabic numerals to Western Europe. He also wrote books on mathematics, natural science, music, theology, and philosophy. Pope Sylvester II was the first French pope, and certainly the most significant in the 10th century. Upon his death, rumors began to fly that his great intelligence, and consequently his inventive genius, was the result of a pact with the devil. This was most likely due to his regular contact with great scientific minds in the Arab world, and his brave attempts to root out simony in the church. Number 9. Niccolo Paganini. Born 10/27/1782. Died 5/27/1840. Niccolo Paganini is one of the greatest violin virtuosos to have ever lived. He learned to play the mandolin at 5 and was composing by 7. He started playing publicly at 12, but by 16 he had a breakdown and disappeared into alcoholism. He sobered up, and by 22 he was the first music superstar. Paganini was capable of playing 3 octaves across 4 strings in a handspan, a feat that is nearly impossible, even by today's standards. He composed 24 caprices at 23, and for years no other violinist was capable of playing much of his music. His playing of tender passages is said to have brought audiences to tears. One of his famous pieces was called the Streg, which translates to Witch's Dance. Audience believe Paganini made a pact with the devil to perform supernatural displays of technique. Some patrons even claim to see the devil helping him during his performances. It is because he was denied the last rites in the church, and his widely rumored association with the devil, that his body was denied a Catholic burial in Genoa. It took 4 years and an appeal to the Pope before the body was allowed to be transported to Genoa, but was still not buried. His remains were finally put to rest in 1876 in a cemetery in Parma. Number 8. Gilles de Rais. Born 1404, died 1440. Gilles de Rais was considered intelligent, courageous, and very attractive, with a bluish-black beard. Born to one of the most distinguished families in Brittany, he came into his own when his father died in Gilles' 20th year. He found himself with untold wealth and power, which eventually led to his downfall. Gilles got an attack of keeping up with the Joneses, which ultimately led to the loss of much of his wealth. In desperation, he began to experiment with the occult under the direction of a man named Francesco Prelati, who promised Gilles he could help him regain his squandered fortune by sacrificing children to a demon called Baron. Over the course of his killing spree, Gilles raped, tortured, and murdered between 80 and 200 children. He was tried, found guilty, and executed by hanging and burning. Number 7. General Jonathan Moulton. Born 7/21/1726. Died 9/18/1787. Jonathan Moulton started as an apprentice to a cabinet maker, but in 1745 he left and started his career in the New England Army. He fought in the King George War and the French and Indian War. He married in 1749 and sired 11 children. He became one of the wealthiest men in New Hampshire, and this led to later tales of his deal with the devil. In 1769, the mansion he built in a Puritan town burned to the ground. Popular belief at the time was that Moulton had a pact with the devil, wherein he would fill Moulton's boots to the brim with gold once a month in return for his soul. It was said that Moulton thought up a clever ploy and placed his boots, with the soles cut off, over a large hole in the ground. The devil, wondering why it was taking so much gold to fill the boots, discovered the trick and exacted revenge. It is believed that when Moulton died, his body disappeared out of the coffin and was replaced by a box of coins stamped with an image of the devil. Moulton's coffin was buried with no grave marker, and its location is unknown. Number 6. Father Urbain Grandier, born 1590, died 8/16/1634. Father Urbain Grandier was a French Catholic priest who was burned at the stake after being convicted of witchcraft. He served as a priest in the Church of St. Croix in Loudun, in the Roman Catholic Diocese of Poitiers. Ignoring his vow of priestly celibacy, he is known to have had relationships with a number of women and to have acquired a reputation as a philanderer. At his trial, the judges, after torturing the priest, introduced documents purportedly signed by Grandier and several demons as evidence that he had made a diabolical pact. It was written backwards in Latin and even included the signature of Satan himself. A picture of the original document can be seen here. The text of the pact read as follows: "We, the influential Lucifer, the young Satan, Beelzebub, Leviathan, Elamai, and Astaroth, together with others, have today accepted the covenant pact of Urbain Grandier, who is ours. And him do we promise the love of women, the flower of virgins, the respect of monarchs, honors, lusts, and powers. He will go whoring 3 days long. The carousal will be dear to him. He offers us once in the year a seal of blood. Under the feet he will trample the holy things of the church, and he will ask us many questions. With this pact he will live 20 years happy on the earth of men, and will later join us to sin against God. Bound in hell, in the council of demons, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Satan, Astaroth, Leviathan, and Elamai. The seals place the devil, the master, and the demons, princes of the Lord. Balberith, writer. Number 5. Giuseppe Tartini, born 4/8/1692, died 2/26/1770. Tartini was an Italian composer and violinist. He was one of the most instrumental musical composers, having written over 400 works. Unlike most of his contemporaries, he wrote no church music or operas. He focused most of his work on violin concerti and sonatas. His most infamous piece is called the Devil's Trill Sonata. The story behind the Devil's Trill starts with a dream. Tartini allegedly told the French astronomer Jerome Lalande that he dreamed that the devil appeared to him and asked to be his servant. At the end of their lessons, Tartini handed the devil his violin to test his skill. The devil immediately began to play with such virtuosity that Tartini felt his breath taken away. When the composer awoke, he immediately jotted down the sonata, desperately trying to recapture what he had heard in the dream. Despite the sonata being successful with his audiences, Tartini lamented that the piece was still far from what he had heard in his dream. What he had written was, in his own words, so inferior to that what I had heard, that if I could have subsisted on other means, I would have broken my violin and abandoned music forever. Number 4. Cornelius Agrippa, born 9/14/1486, died 2/18/1535. Cornelius Agrippa was the most influential writer of the Renaissance esoterica. He studied law and medicine but never obtained a degree. He was considered a magician, occult writer, theologian, astrologer, and alchemist. He was a leader in feminist rights and often defended women accused of witchcraft. He wrote 3 books on the occult that are still in use today. In 1535, he was labeled a heretic and sentenced to death. He escaped and on his way home fell ill and died. After Agrippa's death, rumors circulated about his having summoned demons. In the most famous of these, Agrippa, upon his deathbed, released a black dog, which had been his familiar. This black dog resurfaced in various legends about Faustus, and the Goths' version became the Schwarzpudel, Mephistopheles. Number 3, Robert Johnson, born 5/8/1911, died 9/16/1938. Robert Johnson was a great American blues musician. He ranked 5th out of 100 on Rolling Stone's list as the greatest guitarists of all time. The legend goes that he wanted to be great at the guitar and was instructed to head to a crossroads. There he met the devil who tuned his guitar, giving him mastery over the instrument. Johnson did little to dispel the rumors, even encouraging them by alluding to the fact that he had indeed made a deal with the Prince of Darkness. He produced 6 records before his death at age 27. Johnson's death is controversial, as the most common claim is he was caught flirting with a married woman, and she offered him some whiskey, which was believed to be poisoned by her husband. He was buried in an unmarked grave, the location of which is still under debate. Number 2, Johann George Faust, born 1480, died 1540. Dr. Johann George Faust was an itinerant alchemist, astrologer, and magician of the German Renaissance. His life became the nucleus of the popular tale of Dr. Faust from the 1580s, notably culminating in Marlowe's The Tragical History of Dr. Faust, 1604, and Goethe's Faust, 1808. Legend has it that Faust wanted a life of pleasure, and having been involved with the occult, learned how to summon the devil. Having done so, he made a deal with him for his soul, in return for 24 years of service from Satan. Unfortunately, after 16 years, he regretted his deal and wanted to withdraw it. The consequences of this attempt to withdraw the deal are well known to any who have read the various fictional tales of Faust's life. The devil brutally murdered him. Number 1, Saint Theophilus of Adana, died 538. Saint Theophilus the Penitent, or Theophilus of Adana, was a cleric in the 6th century church who was said to have made a deal with the devil to gain ecclesiastical position. His story is significant, as it is the oldest story of a pact with the devil. Theophilus was the archdeacon of Adana, Cilicia, which is part of modern Turkey. He was unanimously elected to be a bishop, but turned the position down out of humility. Another man was elected in his stead. When the new bishop unjustly deprived Theophilus of his position as archdeacon, Theophilus regretted his humility and sought out a wizard to help him contact Satan. In exchange for his aid, Satan demanded that Theophilus renounce Christ and the Virgin Mary in a contract signed with his own blood. Theophilus complied, and the devil gave him the position as bishop. Years later, fearful for his soul, Theophilus repented and prayed to the Virgin for forgiveness. After 40 days of fasting, the Virgin appeared to him and verbally chastised him. Theophilus begged forgiveness, and Mary promised to intercede with God. He then fasted a further 30 days, at which time Mary appeared to him again and granted him absolution. However, Satan was unwilling to relinquish his hold over Theophilus, and it was a further 3 days before Theophilus awoke to find the damning contract on his chest. He then took the contract to the legitimate bishop and confessed all that he had done. The bishop burned the document, and Theophilus expired out of sheer joy to be free from the burden of his contract. For the complete stories and pictures of these 10 individuals, go to http://listverse.com /2010 /05 /10 dash people dash who dash sold dash their dash soul dash to dash the dash devil /. All these people and anyone else who sells their soul get what they want here on earth. But will they get what they want after life on earth? End of chapter 3, part 2. All honor and glory to God. Coming next, chapter 4. Will God guarantee the devil keeps the promises he made to mortals for the afterlife? Afterlife here on earth. Until then, remember, the devil is stalking you, and God is calling.